Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel, and on today's video we'll be discussing on staying relevant and positively impacting your society. So with me today I have my two special guests, which is who is Mr. Wilson and Madam Fanny. And for the very first time we're having a lady on our video, which is a very great achievement. So stay tuned and listen to all the information that we have for you. So you are welcome to this video.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson is doing economics and statistics, and Madam Fanny is doing economics and finance. So we've got powerful economists in our midst today. So going straight into the point, into the topic of discussion, I would just love to get a definition from the topic of discussion. What do you understand by staying relevant? I'll start with Mr. Wilson.
Well, thank you, Owen, for having me, first of all. I feel staying relevant is broad, and from each person, and each person can define it in another way or in the same way. But for me, I feel staying relevant is really about making a positive impact on society, as well as making a positive impact to the people closest to you.
Thank you so much for that view. Madam, what would you define staying relevant? How would you define being relevant?
I'd also like to thank you for having me. I can define being relevant as being of use, being useful to society and not being biased. That's how I can define being relevant to society.
Yeah, I think the definition is very loud and clear. And in my own view, I feel everything has been said. So being relevant is basically being useful and being innovative and staying up with time. That is you being relevant. You cannot be relevant if you're not useful. So being relevant and positively impacting are interrelated. So thank you so much for those definitions. So first and foremost, we are going to identify our strengths. I believe before you make any impact, you are first supposed to identify your strengths and your passions. So reflecting on your skills and talents and interests, how can these help you identify your strengths and passions?
I can go ahead.
Yes, please.
Reflecting on one's skill in relation to how you can identify your strengths is basically being involved in a lot of activities where you are going to establish your talents, you're going to establish your views, your skills, where you are actually good at, skills that you are good at. So the bottom line, or ultimately how you can identify your talents, your skills, is being actively involved in a lot of activities, relevant activities, that will enhance one's abilities and academia.
Oh yeah, interesting. Mr. Wilson, what is your take on that?
Cut?
Sorry?
I didn't get the question.
Oh, you didn't get the question. So the question is, when you want to stay relevant and useful, you are supposed to identify your strengths and passions. So by doing so, you can identify your strengths and passions through different skills, by identifying your skills, your interests, and your talents. Yeah. So how do you think this can be related to impacting positively to the society?
Well, staying relevant.
Yes, I'm staying relevant.
I feel trying to discover the skills that you're good at, or your talents. It's a really important part of being relevant, because during that process of you discovering what you're good at, you get to impact the people that you're working with, as well as everything that's surrounding that discovery of yours. For example, if you want to figure out if you're good at things like sports, there's always that. Lost track of that.
Yeah. Okay.
I've lost the train of thought.
Yeah. Okay. So looking at the talents, we've talked about the talents and skills. Can you maybe give examples in our day-to-day lives? What are some talents and skills that we feel we have and we can we use those talents to positively impact the society. It might be through speech, public speaking. Yeah, it might be different. So do we have any of those skills or talents that we have identified for ourselves? For example, I would give an example of myself. I think the skills might be talking, right? Might be able to talk to the public. So that's also a skill. And if you're using that skill, it's not just about having a skill, it's also about positively using that skill and talent. So yeah, then looking at values, I believe we are supposed to align with the values are supposed to align with the impact that we are making. So in as much as we are trying to make an impact, we're supposed to identify profound values that we have. So what do you think are some values that can be useful to positively impact the society? Starting from the personal level as well as out there in the industry, what are some expectations of values? Yeah, anything, you guys?
Values.
Yeah.
I alluded to earlier on to say relevance is being useful, being unbiased. And looking at the word unbiased can also be used in relation with values. So basically, the way we are students, and us embarking on a journey of being relevant means we're not supposed to be biased. We're supposed to stand our ground. Our values are supposed to be with us.
Yeah.
So on a personal level, values are things that uphold one person, and you're supposed to uphold those values in as much as you try to be relevant to society. So some of the values might be not being corrupted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not being biased.
Yeah.
Because looking at the world today, our values are changing. We want to be up there, while it's not upholding our values.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we can uphold values without being biased, without being corrupted, just being neutral.
Interesting. Very interesting. Mr. Wilson, what is your take on that?
I'm really, really thinking hard about that question because it involves something that one believes in.
Yeah.
Because values do stem from a certain type of belief. And for me, I feel like values are a really important part of you staying relevant. Personally, I would say that my values are not really based on one thing. My values are dynamic. As the world changes, I also change. And I believe one core value that I have is that I believe that everybody has the right to choose whatever they want to do. And I feel like only if we let people have that right to choose their value system and not being biased, like Fanny said, it will really help everyone to be part of a community that's developing, and also it will also show their relevance in the community rather than trying to package everyone in the same bottle.
Yeah.
Well,
that's really good. I think from what you just highlighted, both of you have gotten the concept of staying relevant in a changing world. Right? You're supposed to have values aligning in a changing world. So that brings me to the next point, which is staying relevant in a changing world. How can you stay relevant in a changing world? Maybe through embracing lifelong learning and personal growth. That can be one of them. And then next, you can stay up to date with the changing world and industry trends, adapting to new technologies. So what are some ways that we can stay relevant despite these that I've mentioned? What are the other ways that you can stay relevant in a changing world?
Being relevant in a changing world.
Yeah.
It requires one to be diverse. It's supposed to be diverse. Looking at how the speed, on how the world is changing, it requires one to be very sharp.
Yeah.
You're supposed to keep an eye on each and every move, on each and every thing that is changing.
Yeah.
Looking at the fact that this Gen Z generation isn't like the old generations.
Yeah.
Technology is one of the things that is moving at a very, very high speed.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have a sort of advantage because we were born in a technological world. So keeping track on what's changing in the world can make one be relevant.
Yeah.
These industries, I believe, as we complete school, we want to work in industries, being updated with the softwares that other company use, how they operate,
Yeah.
technologically, and how we can innovate and come up with new innovations.
Yeah.
So basically keeping an eye on the new trends.
Yeah.
And not always being on TikTok, Facebook.
That's
Those
true.
things are there, yes, but we're supposed to use them in a relevant way.
Exactly. Interesting. Mr. Wilson, would you like to add anything on that?
I would actually. I feel like trying to stay relevant in the changing world is one of the hardest things that you can ever do. And it can go both ways.
Yeah.
You can either be relevant or you can end up being not relevant at all. And I feel all of this comes back to your value system, because almost everything is changing each and every day. And I feel like one key for a person to stay relevant is to be open-minded.
Yeah.
If you're open-minded, it will be easier for you to adapt to new situations. It will also be easier for you to learn new things as the world changes.
Yeah.
An example is in fashion. If I want to dress the way that we were dressing in 2016, I won't be quite as relevant in the sense that people's minds have changed, so they won't take me seriously. They won't view me as part of a relevant society. So I feel it's really important to be open-minded and to try out new things, because you never know which new thing can be that for you, that will help you to be viewed as relevant. And again, it comes back to you as well. We are in a changing world, so the pressure to change is constant. So it even comes to a point where we want to change every time that a new thing that a new thing has arrived. For example, if a new study program was to be introduced, is my mind going to tell me to quickly switch to that program? Yeah. And if you do that, it can also be a sign in you, because in staying relevant, you also need to have a sense of self-value, as well as a sense of there's a word I'm looking for but can't seem to find. Well, you need to be comfortable in your own shoes.
Yeah.
You need to be comfortable in your own shoes. There's no one way to be relevant.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a social media account that has millions of followers. You don't need to be feeding 1 million people, but you can do stuff to be relevant in your own cycle.
Yeah.
In as little, the goal is to make little impacts per person.
Yeah.
If I make impact with the 5 people I'm found with, those 5 people make impact with the 5 people they are found with, you find that everyone is making impact and the world is progressing as well. So I feel like being open-minded is really one of the keys to stay relevant.
Just to add on a bit as well.
Yeah.
I read a book that said success is equal to opportunity and preparedness.
Yeah.
So looking at how the world is changing, as an individual, you're supposed to be changing as well. How prepared are you to embark on a new opportunity? Opportunities come in a lot of different ways, where it requires you to apply a certain type of skill.
Yeah.
And in a case where you are not prepared for that opportunity, you can't jump on that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, opportunities come in various ways. In as much as the world is changing, opportunities are also changing in how they present themselves.
Exactly.
So as Wilson alluded to earlier, to say you are supposed to be open-minded. Be open-minded to new opportunities. Be open-minded to new situations. And how much are you prepared to embark on an opportunity? So it also comes down to being prepared for opportunities and also upholding your values, you know, as you embark on those new opportunities, of which is going to yield success at the end of the day.
Wow, this is really an interesting topic, and it's getting exciting at every particular time. So this is my take on what you guys have said. You've talked of being relevant, staying relevant, having an open mind to learn. Each and every time we should be open-minded enough to learn new things, and this brings us to lifelong learning, right? Lifelong learning is where it's not everything that is going to be taught to you in class, you know. It's not everything that you're going to learn from the lecturer. There's just certain things that you're supposed to identify for yourself, research on yourself, and that will bring about personal growth. Moving on, we talked of opportunities that can make a difference. What are some opportunities? How can you demonstrate those opportunities in order to make a difference? What I mean is, there might be opportunities, right, that would demonstrate themselves there, but it's up to you to go and grab them. So how would you make that opportunity to make a difference? It might be maybe volunteering and things like that. And if by any means you can share on how you positively made that impact. Maybe it might be a volunteering, maybe you're an activist, and so on. So how do you make that difference?
Okay. I'll share my experience.
Yes.
Yeah. So at Mulungushi University, we've got an Economics Association chapter. Yes. And there will be an incoming executive, of which, you know, other people have to come up.
Yeah.
And being relevant is me trying to engage myself in this association.
Yeah.
Of which, yeah, I went for interviews as a secretary, and yeah, we hope for the best. And also being relevant, I also I'm the current secretary.
Wow.
For Anakaziti Kambe.
Wow.
It's actually a new chapter that we're trying to launch here, which we will in due time. So yeah, trying to be relevant and jumping on new opportunities. I'm hoping to impact and leave a legacy, because it's all about educating, you know, raising awareness to the outside world. And Anakaziti Kambe is basically a female association where we try to raise awareness, you know, in terms of, you know, financial stability and how females can be ready to go out there with the financial information or knowledge that they need. Yeah. So basically, jumping on new opportunities is a good thing, and you turn to leave an impact, you know, on society, on people around you, and it's actually a good thing.
Wow, interesting. So there you have it, you guys. There's Anakaziti Kambe. She's trying to grab an opportunity and trying to make a difference. That is what we are talking about. Mr. Wilson, would you love to share with us any experience that you had that made you make a difference?
Certainly. I feel when you first asked me that question, my first thought was, you know, talking about my climate change activism, as well as the little, you know, stage presence that I've had in society. But again, thinking about it, as I'm thinking about it, I'm just realizing that it's way deeper than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel being relevant is way deeper than that. I'll share an experience of being relevant in a community. Yeah. For example, let me not start with an example, sorry. Let me just go direct to the experience I had. But before I talk about the experience I just want to mention that some opportunities lead to more opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah, the reason that I won't start with my activism is that I had an opportunity to start my activism. I had obtained knowledge, I had gained education to a certain level for me to be where I was.
Yeah.
But I feel even if I didn't have that, there are other ways that I would have been relevant. Back to the experience.
Yes.
So I live in a community where everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was one Sunday morning. It's actually a sad experience. It was one Sunday morning. I just came from church. I was taking care of my chicken. So I heard a commotion outside. Mostly when you hear a commotion, it's either they've caught a thief, it's either a thief or something of that manner. But that was different.
Yeah.
So since it was right outside my gate, I opened it and I found a crowd of people. They were surrounding what seemed to be like a man. Yeah, I thought it was a man. So my exact thought was that is a thief. But as I got closer, I realized that it was a little boy. And this little boy was not okay. He was unconscious. He was unconscious. He seemed like he was choking, and everybody was there. There were women, there were children, they were there watching the child die, for a lack of better term. So they were watching a child die right there and then. And that really touched me for a second. I was numb because I didn't know what to do as well.
Yeah.
What I would have done is be one of the standards.
Yeah.
English. English. I could have been one of the bystanders because it's not my responsibility to do anything.
Yeah.
But it was my duty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just because if I didn't do it, nothing would have happened to me. There are no penalties. But I feel like it was my duty to a certain level. So that compelled me to try to see how I can help that child. And unfortunately, I was the only one who tried to help the child. So it was really, really difficult. When I had to carry the child on my back, I had to run to the hospital. So it was a really hectic experience. And unfortunately, because of the time that I took to get there, the child had already died on my way there. So by the time I was there, the child was already dead. That, when you asked me about being relevant, my experience, my thought went to that exact experience, because I think if we all tried to be relevant in that situation, we would have served that 8-year-old little boy.
Yeah.
Someone would have gone to call a car.
Yeah.
I would have stayed there trying to help. Someone would have gone to tell the family. But when one person is doing everything, we wouldn't have enough. We didn't have enough time, and it ended up costing a life.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you talked about being relevant, I feel it comes deep. It's something that is deep in our hearts.
Yeah.
It involves things like being an active bystander.
Yeah.
It involves things like speaking up for people who can't speak for themselves.
Yeah.
I'm a really big girls' child activist. Yeah, some people take that as hating boys, but it isn't. It's just giving the voice to people who have not had the voice in such a long time. Such a long time they've been oppressed. Such a long time they haven't had a platform to speak for themselves. And I feel knowing the people who need your help and stepping up is a key thing for you to be relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to cut you short, you talked of activism on the girl child. Can you just shed more light on that? How do you do that? Yes. Are there any form of organizations that you've joined and that guide you through that journey?
Of course, I have had engagements with many organizations in terms of that. Yeah, and some of them being Dreams and UNICEF and Save the Children. But my main advocacy issue is climate change.
Climate change.
Yeah, because climate change is something that has affected me from the day I was a child. So it's something that is really rooted in me.
Yeah.
So I advocate for climate change, but climate change is diverse. I because it affects everybody. It affects the rights of the child, it affects women, it affects everybody. So it encompasses everything that I talk about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's really interesting insights you guys are sharing here, and we can talk more on how you can find opportunities to make a difference. So this is what we are talking of. When you find an opportunity, grab that opportunity, because opportunities are everywhere. Opportunities are like every time, whenever you wake up a day, you might find an opportunity. So the only thing that makes a difference is for you to grab that opportunity and try to make a difference. Wow, that's interesting. Then looking at grabbing opportunities and making a difference, I believe this will help us develop a growth mindset, because you'll be embracing challenges and failures, and learning experiences through the same opportunities that you're grabbing. So I'm sure this will enable one to be self-aware. Of course, you're supposed to be self-aware and self-reflect even as you are tackling those opportunities. Moving on, we are going to look at building relationships and networking. How do we intend to do that in order to positively impact the society? How do you get to build positive relationships and networks? How do you get to network with people? What's up with you can go first.
Okay,
Sure.
ladies first.
Ladies first.
How you can create
How can build positively? Yeah,
build positive relationships.
yes.
So I once worked for Quito City Council.
Okay.
Yes, I was doing internships there. So one way I found out on how you can build relationship or networks is when you are put in a certain institution, when you are put to work, you're assigned duties and you're supposed to play a certain type of role in that institution. You're supposed to give it your all.
Yeah.
You're supposed to work hard. You're supposed to work, tirelessly, in that you're going to impact. Your impact will be felt in that institution.
Yes.
And the more people see how you are motivated, how you are driven by working hard, people would actually like you to say, no, this is a good person, who will eventually call you again.
Yeah.
So when you are put in certain institutions, when you go out there for your attachments, for your research, for any type of work, you're supposed to work accordingly.
Yeah.
In economics, you've got terms supposed to work efficiently, effectively.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to do all that, in that your impact will be felt.
Yeah.
And obviously a legacy will be, will follow you.
Yes.
So you can make connections or connect with other people by working hard.
Yeah.
If you're put in a certain institution, work zealously, you have a drive,
Yeah.
that will make you not just working for the sake of working to say, I'm just working to earn money. Of
Yeah.
course, our goal is, to have money, drive good cars, but ultimately you're supposed to have a drive and you're supposed to work positively in that institution that you're put in, and people will like you.
Yeah.
People love hardworking, students, hardworking people that are actually going to enhance their institution or their company.
Yeah.
So connections can be made through working hard, you leaving an impact in a certain company or institution that you're put in.
Interesting. Really interesting. Mr. Wilson, practicing effective communication can also be used as a tool to creating networks, right? So how do you get to communicate? How do you get to have those effective communication in order to build connection?
So what I'm trying to say with this experience is that opportunities are everywhere.
Yeah.
All you need to do is look and act. Yeah, I'm sure that some people, right, who were there would have been able to help if they were asked to. But you don't always have to wait for the opportunity to come to you. You need to look it up and act upon it.
Yeah. Interesting. Back to our question. If nurturing meaningful communications and collaborations has to come with effective communication. Yeah. So how do you intend to effectively communicate so as to build strong networks that give you a wide range of opportunities that will help you make a difference? How do you get to do that?
Well, for me, Owen, I've used communication in the past as my friend to help me build networks, and I plan to use it in the future as well. And mostly how I do it is by tailoring my message to each audience. The same way I would talk to my fellow student is different to how I would talk to people who are high ranking.
Yeah.
So it's different from the way I would talk to lecturers when I'm trying to build those networks.
Yeah.
So I feel like one of the key things if you want to build a network is know what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
When you know what you're passionate about, you'll be able to assess ways in which you can talk to different people about it and nurture relationships with them.
Yeah.
When you're at a conference, what words will you use to talk to people that you meet there?
Yeah.
When you're at school, what words will you use to talk to people, who are found at school and who might help you in that aspect? So I feel like communication all stems down to what you already know, and trying to present it in different forms while holding on to the same message.
Interesting. So basically what we're trying to say is building a strong connection and network can help you do a lot of things, because if I've got a network, suppose you are a climate change activist and she's an economist. If I need advice on climate change, definitely I'll go to a person who's got more knowledge about that. So in that way, I'm building a connection, and that will positively impact on the society. So this is really an interesting question, interesting conversation, and we've talked about a lot of things, and I believe at the end of the day, what we are trying to do is to create a long-lasting impact, right? So at the end of the day, we are trying to create a long-lasting impact by evaluating the impacts that we are making and setting goals and working towards those tangible goals. So everything that we've talked about is basically trying to create a long-lasting impact, and we've talked of identifying your passions, we've talked of identifying your skills and your talents, and how best you can use those with the knowledge that you've acquired, how best you can make a difference. And we've also talked of developing a growth mindset and finding opportunities in our day-to-day lives in order to make a difference, right? Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who is out there, who is someone like me, who is not making any impact, or maybe who doesn't know that they're making any impact? Because I believe making an impact can be in the little things that we do. It might be like Wilson put it out, saving someone, grabbing, taking advantage of something to say, no one is doing this, let me get in. Like my friend and I here, we came up with this YouTube channel because we thought to say, what next after school? What is supposed to be done next? And most people don't talk about that. So I believe we are also positively making an impact and making a difference. So what advice would you give to someone who is out there and feel they're not making enough impact, or maybe they're making impact but they feel it's not so effective? Or how can they make any positive impact in whichever field of area that they are in?
Okay. Okay. So did I mention that I'm also an advocacy trainer? Yeah, let me give my advice in the advocacy trainer perspective. So I worked with UNICEF for a year as a youth advocacy trainer, which involved me myself being trained as well as training over 500 young people in advocacy. So if you are someone out there, if you are someone who's young out there trying to find purpose, because I've noticed that we have this irking feeling to find purpose.
Yeah.
Each and every one of us. I would advise you to find one thing that you care about. And you can do this by just thinking of this easy sentence. When I think about blank, I feel blank because of blank. When you find something that you think about that makes you feel something, stand for it. That will be called your advocacy issue. Once you have that advocacy issue, make sure you connect, you network, and you find people who have similar interests. Even if you don't find people who have similar interests, you stand with your truth.
Yeah.
Stand with your truth, build a network. There are so many ways you can do that. You can do it via social media. You can do it via attending meetings, watching TV, reading newspapers. From there on, you get to know the people who are supporting the cause that you're for. After that, you build momentum by learning more about what you care about and how you can make a positive impact. Do you want to create a YouTube channel like Owen?
Yeah.
Find the resources that can help you to create a YouTube channel. Watch videos that can help you create a YouTube channel. All you need to do is continue looking at something that you care about. Find something that you care about. That's where it all starts.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Really interesting. Finding something that you care about. Yeah. What do you care about yourself? It's a question that we must always ask ourselves. What is it that you care about, and what difference can you make concerning that? What care would you render to that? You know? Yeah. So very interesting. Fanny, can you share any advice to the people and the viewers out there?
I'm going to narrow it down to an university level.
Yes.
So the word of advice is no opportunity. Yeah, in some rare instances, yeah, opportunities will be there directly being presented to you.
Yeah.
But in most cases, as African children, we are trained to fight for what we want. We are trained to go out there looking for opportunities, and immediately you find that opportunity, grab it.
Yeah.
Effectively use it, you know. And one thing I would love to say is, don't keep an eye on who you are, but keep an eye on who you are becoming.
Yeah.
You know, personally, I haven't done a lot of things. I can't say I'm proud of what I have done, because because I'm looking forward to the person that I am becoming, that I want to become. So in as much as you embark on a journey of being relevant, celebrate your little success.
Yeah.
You know, it might be a little, it might be very small, but for the fact that it has impacted you in one way or another, it has impacted one person in one way or another, celebrate your little success. Keep an eye on who you want to become and not who you are. And always work tirelessly to grab an opportunity. And lastly, if an opportunity is presented to you, are you prepared to, you know, to jump on that opportunity?
Yeah.
So we are supposed to be ready for any opportunity that we might come across, and at the end of the day, it's going to yield success.
Wow. I feel like clapping right now. I feel like applauding you guys and just thanking you for your time. So here you have it, guys, who have been talking about staying relevant and positively impacting the society in which you are living in. And we've discussed to say you have to identify your strengths and your passions in order for you to stay relevant and positively impact on the society. And also talked of grabbing the opportunities to make a difference in society, you know, and developing a growth mindset that in our day-to-day lives, we must make it our aim to self-develop, you know, having a growth mindset. And in that way, you are going to stay relevant into the society. we feel like going on and on, but due to the interest of time, we would end here, and we'll just love to thank our guests for sparing their time to come and show up. And thank you so much. We'll call you again. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and watch the previous videos that we've uploaded. And stay tuned for more content. Peace.